focus on the imperfect, and in this case, just the kal imperfect for now. Now, other names for the imperfect would be the prefix verb, or it could be called the yiktal verb, and as such, it's named for the form with the root kof tate lamed, yiktol, and the default here is he killed, he will kill, kind of in the simple future tense. So in contrast to the perfect or katal verb, he has killed or he killed. So this is going to focus more on the imperfect aspect of it. He will kill. Now there's also some modal senses that are embedded in it, and they can only be brought out by context. So you could go with he will kill, or you could say he might kill, or he could kill, or he shall kill, or any number of other modal possibilities. Now it's good to know the kal imperfect paradigm for the very well. Yiktol, tiktol, tiktol, tiktali, ektol, yiktalu, tiktolana, tiktalu, tiktolana, niktol. And you'll notice that each one has a pronoun prefixed to the front. It's very important to get a grip on these. And so here we have he yiktol, he will kill. Tiktol, she will kill. Again, tiktol, same form, so context will have to bear it out, but probably more often than not, it will be tiktol, you will kill, 2ms. Tiktali, this is you will kill, feminine. Ektol, I will kill. Then we have all the plurals. You'll notice the plurals repeat most of the prefix pronouns, but many of them have a little bit of an ending added on. So we have yiktalu, they will kill. Tiktolana, again, the same form twice, but very rarely in context will this bother you. But it will either be they will kill or you will kill plural. In either case, it's the FP form, so it's only referring to a female plurality of in the subject. Then we have tiktalu, you all, masculine plural, will kill. Niktol, we will kill. Again, very important to get all of these memorized so that you're able to recognize these forms in context. And we'll worry about the different stems or binyanim later. We'll look at a couple of examples. Here we have Mi yishkon bahar kodshecha. Who, interrogative, will dwell on the hill, your holy one? Who will dwell on your holy hill? Now, in this case, we probably want to think in terms of a modal term. So this is probably to be thought of not as who will dwell, but who may dwell. And the question gets answered elsewhere in the psalm. Those that live according to God's holy standards. So who may dwell. So here we say, probably very appropriately, to put the modal in, and it's only context that tells us exactly which modal term to use, whether we should say should, would, could, shall, or the like. Here's an example from Genesis 30. Batomer Rachel lachen, yishkav imach halayla, tachat duda'e v'nech. Rachel's the subject, and Rachel said, thus, And here's the imperfect form. Thus, he shall lie with you tonight, for, or instead of, the mandrakes of your son. So here Rachel is trading some mandrakes for conjugal rights this evening for Leah. And it worked out good for Leah because, of course, she became pregnant with another son. So in this case, the imperfect probably has the sense of shall lie with you because of the nature of the trade. So it's not really Jacob's choice. This is Rachel's choice. And so she's stating really sort of in a prophetic way where Jacob's going to sleep that night in order to trade for these mandrakes that Reuben had found. Here's another example of the imperfect from Genesis 3. V'ata pen yishlach yado v'lakach gam me'etz ha'chayim v'echal v'chai la'olam. And now, lest he stretch out his hand, and he will take even from the tree of life, and eat and live forever. So here we have the imperfect form from the verb shin lamed chet, shalach. And here we have to determine what the sense is. Is this otherwise or lest he will reach out his hand, or is it he might reach out his hand in order to take even from the tree of life? So here I might go with, just thinking right now, I might go with he might reach out his hand. And so to prevent that possibility, because it's hypothetical, it hasn't happened yet, therefore he's going to need to be kicked out of the garden. And one other thing to take notice of here, we have the imperfect, but it's hypothetical. Otherwise he will reach out his hand. And then this continues the idea. And he would, or he might, or he could take. So here we have the vav consecutive perfect. So when the vav gets put on the front of a perfect verb, lachach, to take, it makes it have a futuristic sense. Here it's just going to follow whatever sense we decide is in the imperfect form, it will follow that. Otherwise, he will reach out his hand and he will take. He would reach out his hand and he would take. He might reach out his hand and he might take. However we decide to go with that. And here's one more example from Exodus chapter 5. Vayomer Paro, mi Hashem Ashur eshma bikolo. Subject is Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, who, interrogative, is the Lord, that I will listen to his voice. So here we have the imperfect eshmach, and it's from shin mem ayin, to listen or obey. And here it's a kal form. It's the imperfect, and this one is first person common singular. So if all we had is the word eshma, I would just translate that I will listen. However, because it's in a question, and there seems to be a little bit of attitude here, and we have to decide exactly what Pharaoh's attitude is. Is he saying, who is the Lord that I will listen, I should listen, I might listen, I would listen? But however we decide to go with this, this is more of a rhetorical question where Pharaoh's kind of showing his hardened heart and saying, I'm not going to listen to your God. And so then he says, who is the Lord that I would listen to his voice? Something to that effect is how I would think we would want to go with eshma here. Overall, take your time, and as you look at context, begin with the simple imperfect and then work through some of the modalities, because the exact sense of the imperfect comes from the contextual clues that we have.